Hey everyone, welcome to Meet the Games, episode 6. I am your host, John Hood from Infinite Lives, and joining me is my partner in crime, Mr. Dan Paredes. Hi, Dan.
How's it going?
It's going fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at a couple cool games today. We're
Yeah.
going to look at Chroma Squad from Behold Studios, a mixture of XCOM and the movies, I was going to say. Also, it is a Power Rangers game. So,
Wow, that sounds pretty good.
yeah.
I'm looking at Heroes of the Storm by indie dev Blizzard.
Yes, they're
It's a MOBA.
struggling for money, Blizzard Entertainment.
MOBA.
All right, well, why don't we jump right in and take a look at Heroes of the Storm.
MOBA.
I used to play League of Legends years ago. In 2014, I spent most of the year playing Dota 2. So it only makes sense to have spent the last 2 months playing the latest entry into the MOBA genre, Heroes of the Storm. MOBA. The acronym behind the most popular and highest profile games in the world, it stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. Yeah, I don't think it's the best label for a genre, but it's the best we have. The goal in every MOBA is to destroy the innermost base of your opposition by controlling one of 5 characters with unique abilities. You level up your character in conjunction with your other teammates to eventually overpower the opposing team. From building certain items, pocket strategies, intense micromanagement, and team composition, League of Legends and Dota 2 are ridiculously complex. I spent 400 hours in Dota 2 and still only scratched the very, very top surface of that game. Heroes of the Storm from Blizzard is an attempt to simplify. In fact, Blizzard even tries to create a whole new genre label, calling Heroes of the Storm a hero brawler. Blizzard, this is just a MOBA. Hero brawler makes less sense. Some of the major elements are still present. There's still 5 characters per team with unique abilities. The goal is still to destroy the other person's base. It's called a core in Heroes of the Storm, and there are waves of creeps to help you drive back the enemy. But almost everything else is different enough that being a veteran can almost be a disadvantage. There is no shop to buy items, which means there's no gold. This lessens the amount of time that it takes to learn new characters. Experience is shared between all teammates. Instead of trying to babysit a carry through initial laning phases, every character feels important in every phase of the game. Interestingly enough, each character begins with all abilities, except for their ultimate. It's called the heroic ability here. Heroes of the Storm is not only content to dismiss staples of the genre, it feels needlessly complex, but it saves room for some new ideas. Every few levels or so, you have the ability to choose a talent, which will enhance a current ability, give you another ability, or broadly change how that ability even works. At level 10, you get to choose one of 2 different heroic ultimates. This allows for some customization for each hero, but the big focus of the game are the maps. Yes, I said maps with an S. In fact, Gone is the defensive ancients map that is core to League of Legends and Dota 2. Each map of Heroes of the Storm has a unique objective. Capturing and fighting over this objective greatly influences the outcome of each map. Some maps have heroes collecting items to power a monster, and some have you occupying a specific point to unleash devastation on the other team. This aspect, though, threw me for a loop, and I really didn't like it early on, but soon I realized that the whole point of the game is fulfilling these objectives. I do find it unfortunate that Heroes of the Storm uses a League of Legends-like system for acquiring heroes. Each hero needs to be purchased, but there is a revolving set of free heroes each week. There are also quests to be completed, like playing so many games or playing a particular kind of character. This earns you gold, which you can use to purchase characters. Playable heroes are drawn from other Blizzard franchises. StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo, and even the Lost Vikings, which lends a bit of a Smash Brothers type of vibe to the game. I do like Heroes of the Storm. In fact, I have spent money on this free-to-play game already. The matches are short, the characters are easy to learn, but I feel hard to master. I am a convert, and if Blizzard ever adds Blackthorn to the game, I would gladly pay cash money.
So that was Heroes of the Storm. It's a MOBA, Dan.
MOBA.
So I played League of Legends. Will I be able to jump right into this game without any problems?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is a more simplified game than League of Legends and Dota. You don't have to know what items to buy and those kind of things, or what abilities to level up first, because everything just levels up. but there is still some complexity on it. It's which characters to play, how to play those characters, because every character is pretty different, and they have different roles and different abilities and those kind of things. But the time spent between first playing the game and actually like having fun is greatly reduced. It's really compressed. I don't remember having fun in Dota 2 for, I don't know, the first week or 2 weeks or something like that. And
sounds like a great game, Dan.
Not feeling very confident in it. But, in Heroes of the Storm, you'll get used to it in one night.
Well, that's cool. That's a very a very simple learning curve, which is nice.
Yeah, and I briefly glossed over it, but one of the really big things that I really like about this game is that the matches are short. I've had matches last anywhere from 10 to 11 minutes. They can go long, but anything that's above like 25 minutes, 30 minutes, really feels like, wow, what's going on here? This is something really different. Whereas a Dota 2 match, I mean, bare minimum, you're spending 40 minutes on average. I mean, if anything's less than a 30-minute match, that's actually the exception.
So yeah, it's not a big time sink, which is nice, because you can play a couple matches in an hour and like, oh, I got to be somewhere. You can easily just jump off. It's not like Dota where you're sitting there for 45 minutes to sometimes. You said you had matches go up to like 90 minutes in some cases.
I've had a 90-minute match,
and that's a time sink, especially. And we've talked about this before with MOBAs. When you go through a 90-minute match and then you lose, that's like way more demoralizing.
Well, what's also different about this game is that with Dota, and you actually see it when you watch the pro scene, when you watch the esports coverage of it, like if you watch the international, there's so much numbers in that game, and there's so much kind of like it's kind of like StarCraft, where you get a very good indication of where that team is. In respect to the other team, and it's very hard to come back. I mean, it makes the comeback very spectacular, but it's very hard to come back. In Heroes of the Storm, even if you're winning and you've been winning the entire game, you can lose the match like that. Because if everybody wipes all at the same time, it's very easy to
because then the group can go after the objectives and stuff, like you said, which are a big part of this game.
And that can be also very frustrating because it feels like, you've been doing well and things like that. But at the same time, it also kind of keeps you in the game, coupled with the shorter match times. A common thing in Dota, I remember, is like, around the 20-minute mark, you just kind of like, well, we're going to be losing, but it's going to take about 30 more minutes for this to resolve because, how the game is structured.
Yeah.
It's a simpler MOBA, and a lot of veterans of the MOBA scene will probably look at that with kind of like scorn or something like that. But I like it because it just kind of respects your time a little bit more.
And that is just something people getting older with games definitely have to look into.
Yeah. And it's just a little it's more fun on a whole for me.
Cool. Well, I mean, it's made by Blizzard, too, so all their stuff is top-notch. So.
Yeah, and it's great having, like, a bunch of Blizzard characters and stuff. I mentioned it. I hope that they have Blackthorn. I hope they have Rock and Roll Racers. You can just drive a car around or something like that.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was Heroes of the Storm. And we're going to be looking at Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
It's Chroma Squad, Dan. Chroma Squad.
Chroma Squad.
I'm going to make a small confession here. Can I do that with you, dear viewer? Alright, here goes. I like the Power Rangers. There, I said it. You remember that silly show with a bunch of teenage martial artists fighting guys in spandex, and men in suits, and giant robots, and cool, bright, shiny lasers? Pew, 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 pew! Sorry, just spaced out a little there. But honestly, I've been a fan of these Super Sentai shows since the original series aired on Fox back in '93. And when I first heard about a game inspired by these types of shows, I was immediately intrigued. Chroma Squad from Behold Studios is what you'd get if you took the squad-based tactics of XCOM and melded it a bit with the movies, and the results are bliss. The game is set with a group of stunt actors who are working on a Super Sentai show, but not nearly getting the credit they deserve for their hard work. So after a brief powwow, the stunt actors decide to start up their own studio and create their own show to get the credit they feel they deserve. You are then dropped into the studio management portion of the game, which includes equipment upgrades, which have effects like increasing your maximum audience, which ties into the income you can make, discounts on purchasing new equipment in the shop, to even providing buffs to your squad that are used in the second part of the game, the turn-based squad combat that makes up a bulk of it. Once you finish upgrading your studio and answering fan mail, it's time to shoot the actual episodes. In the earlier build I played, the missions were automatically chosen, but in the retail release you get several options to choose from, and can tackle them in any order. Once you begin shooting the episode, you have control over Chroma Squad in a turn-based combat, but in addition to defeating all the enemies, you are always presented with some additional goals, called Director's Instructions, which if completed provide a huge boost to your audience and are vital to ensuring that you're actually making money when you complete the episode. And the actual requirements range from kill all enemy X within set number of turns, but some of the more challenging goals so far involve trying to do something within the first couple of turns. This is due to the fact that in almost all the missions you start out in street clothes, and have to actually build up the ability to chromatize, at which point you become much stronger and gain access to special abilities. However, these goals are all very attainable if you use the teamwork ability that every member has, which basically makes them pose dramatically, but also allows them to do things like carry out a team-up attack, or even vault another character much further than they would normally be able to travel. In addition to the movement and combat benefits, teamwork actually has additional effects depending on the character, the most notable being the ability for one of the characters to heal any surrounding heroes when they use the teamwork attack. This has saved me in many a sticky situation, but can also create problems since the healer is generally the weakest team member. The combat is fairly straightforward, but with the special abilities, weapons, and team-up attacks really does evoke watching these shows. And just like the shows the game is based on, you do occasionally get to pilot a mecha and wreck shop on a giant monster. The combat in these sequences is a little different, as you choose attacks and have a percentage chance to hit with each one, which decreases with each consecutive hit. But some of the upgrades for your robot allow you to execute a number of special attacks that do massive damage or grant you a big bonus to your defense. When defending, it's actually presented as a timing game that requires you to hit the button within a certain zone that can drastically reduce the damage. All the combat is usually peppered in with some pretty funny dialogue that breaks the fourth wall in many instances. You even get guest appearances from random fans, enemies, and the like, though through the course of the levels, which are actually broken up into seasons, and it directly ties into the abilities which your actors and heroes have access to. In the end, I've very much enjoyed my time with Chroma Squad, since it lets me relive my adolescent fantasies of being a super cool martial artist with access to magic and giant robots. If you've ever had even a passing interest in the shows that inspired the setting, or even if you're just looking for a fairly interesting squad-based combat game, you really do owe it to yourselves to give Chroma Squad a try. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Especially when you use your mecha uses its glowing sword to kill a giant monster for the very first time.
So that was Chroma Squad. John?
Yes, Dan.
Chroma Squad looks awesome.
It's pretty great.
The graphics look like some of the best we've seen, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously inspired by like a 16-bit style game, and the developers really get that like the aesthetic of these types of shows. So like you have certain enemies who are themed. So like early on, the guys obviously look like the putties from like the original Power Rangers, but the later you get into the game, the baseline minions do change depending on what kind of level you're fighting, what enemy you're fighting, like the main enemy that you're fighting. So yeah, it just looks really great, and also the costumes when you actually do change them, like you upgrade them, it's actually reflected on the characters as well, which is cool. So we played this game. Well, I think you played this game last year at PAX. Yep.
So what kind of differences do you see from what you played that demo and the final release?
So
product?
they pretty much had the framework down. A lot of the stuff that they've done here is it seems like they've expanded the abilities for all the characters quite a bit. So like the actual roles, each character actually has a role. So you've got your leader, of course. You've got somebody who's the bruiser. You have a tech guy. You've got a healer, and then you've got like an acrobat. And they all have special abilities based on what their role is. Like the acrobat guy gets like extra movement. The tech guy gets a cool ability where he can like shoot a bunch of guys within a specific range. It's funnily enough, the leader gets like an ability where he basically can pull a guy towards him with a lasso, but he totally pulls it out and like swings it around like a lasso because they're like, it's a low budget show.
Yeah.
So they're basically using whatever props they can to kind of simulate the kind of stuff that they would do. It's really clever and I like it. And I mentioned it before, but they do pepper a lot of funny dialogue in there.
So, talking about the tactical RPG part of it, is there enough of a difference between the levels and the kind of enemies that you're doing where, you kind of have to change up tactics, or are you kind of set on one kind of way to play the game, that you're comfortable with, and then, the game doesn't really challenge you to try?
No, because of the director's instructions, you have to kind of figure out each level on its own. There's one level specifically that is in the first season where you have to get to these civilians behind a fence.
Yeah.
But you don't actually get to transform into your ability, into your super outfits, because they're at the cleaners. So they're like, oh, we're gonna work it into the episode.
Nice.
And so I had to send the acrobat in blazing forward, because you have to get to him within a certain number of turns. And so I was able to get him up and get him vaulted over the fence so that he could rescue those people, so I could get the director bonus.
Yeah.
So it does force you to kind of change up your tactics. Like in a lot of cases, it'll be, depending on how they lay you out in the beginning of the match, it's like, okay, who am I going to send this way, this match? Because, my strongest fighter has to go this way, but there's 3 guys over there that I need to take care of. Well, the acrobat guy can take care of them because he's really, he's good at dodging. So I'll send him over, and hopefully he doesn't die.
So how hard is this game? Tactical RPGs are usually pretty tough.
Yeah, I've had a couple of instances where it's gotten a little close. There was one mission in particular where I fought a guy who looked like the devil, who took out 2 of my squad members, and was close to taking out the rest of them. Yeah. This was one where I actually had a guest star, but he didn't actually transform into anything. He was just a dude who was fighting with me. But yeah, I got through that one by the skin of my teeth. But some of the missions, it's as long as you are careful and you are actually planning out a strategy on how you want to tackle them, it's not too difficult. So
Behold Studios, I know them from Knights of Pen and Paper.
Yep.
Which is another game where they kind of take that meta fourth wall aspect. Mm-hmm. Where you're a bunch of kids playing a D&D game, and then you're also in an RPG.
Yep.
And so this is a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger game, except it's about a TV show of a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game.
Yeah, and you running that studio. So
yeah, I really like what they're doing, and they're kind of carving out their own niche.
Yeah.
Of a meta type of game. Kind of wonder what they're up to next.
And the crazy thing about this is these guys are based in Brazil,
yeah.
right? So I mean, it's just I remember talking to them last year during the interviews and stuff, and getting the sense that they're the stuff that they're super interested in, talking to them about these types of shows, and just seeing that passion that they have for it. You can definitely see it comes through in the game.
Yeah, geek culture knows no bounds.
Exactly. So they seek it out.
So that was the greatest Mighty Morphin Power Ranger game that was never made, but now is made in 2015.
Yeah, and they actually have a thing on the bottom there that says inspired by Saban's Power Rangers.
Nice.
So yeah, they had to do that to get around the licensing.
How happy they are.
So that's going to wrap up another episode of Meet the Games. We took a look at Heroes of the Storm by Blizzard. MOBA. As well as Chroma Squad by Behold Studios. Dan, I want to thank you for your time today, and I want to thank you, dear viewer, for watching.
Chroma.